In question 5, we're going to build the federal funds market and then show how the Fed targets interest rates. The numbers for the demand curve and the numbers for the supply curve have all been copied and pasted into Excel. Just like in problem 2, the intercept of the demand curve is the sum of C7, which is the shock parameter, plus the product of the reserve requirement ratio, 0.1, and checkable deposits, 521.5. So the intercept is 6.12. The slope is the aversion to holding excess reserves, 0.05. The vertical section is the sum of barred reserves, $0 billion, and non-barred reserves, $78 billion. The horizontal section of the supply curve is the discount rate, 3.22%. So down here we have the supply curve, which is this part of the dashed cross, and the horizontal section here. It's the L shape right here. The demand curve, and then the equilibrium is right here. I've copied and pasted the diagram from Cengage Now here into Excel. The supply curve is the L-shaped part of the dashed cross that starts at $78 billion, goes up until the discount rate of 3.22, and then goes right. The equilibrium federal funds rate is the interest rate at the intersection of demand and supply. The equilibrium federal funds rate is roughly 2.2%. Next, we want to actually calculate the equilibrium quantity of reserves, equilibrium federal funds rate, and the Fed's target for the federal funds rate. The equilibrium quantity is just 78. The target is 1 percentage point less than the discount rate. So if the discount rate is 3.22, the target is 2.22. The federal funds rate is determined by plugging the quantity of reserves into the demand for reserves. And that equals 2.22. So it looks like the federal funds rate is equal to its target. Which of the following statements is correct? The equilibrium federal funds rate is equal to its target. True. The federal funds market is in normal mode. It is not in emergency mode, and is not in crisis mode. So A and B are correct. After the FOMC determines the economy is sliding into recession, it will lower its target for the federal funds rate. Why does it do this? Well, by lowering the federal funds rate target, rates are pulled down, which stimulates aggregate demand because investment will be higher. So here it decides to lower the target for the federal funds rate by 150 basis points. 150 basis points is 1.5%. So I'm going to copy this into Excel. With the old target being 2.22, the new target would be, again, 150 basis points is 1.5 percentage points. So the new target would be 0.72. Now, because the target has been lowered by 150 basis points, so too is the discount rate by the same amount, to 1.72. And I'll make these red to differentiate from initial to final. So with the new discount rate at 1.72, the new target is 0.72. To get the target from 2.22 to 0.72, the Fed has to do an open market purchase. We want to compute the size of the open market purchase that would be necessary to change the target federal funds rate from 2.22 to 0.72. To do this, use the new target federal funds rate to determine the location of the vertical section of the new reserve supply curve, which is the new value of total reserves. Down here, the Fed is going to do an open market purchase to move the supply curve from this location to this location. This height here is the new discount rate, 1.72. And this right here is the old discount rate, 3.22. And this right here is the new federal funds rate, 0.72. So we need to compute this quantity of reserves right here. So all we do is we plug the new target into the demand curve and then solve for R. Here I have the new target for the federal funds rate set equal to the demand curve for reserves. Down here I've subtracted 0.72 from both sides of the equation and added 0.05 R to both sides of the equation. And then down here, I've divided both sides of this equation by 0.05. So the new quantity of reserves is equal to 6.12 minus 0.72 divided by 0.05. So the new quantity of reserves is 108. And the size of the open market purchase is the difference between 108 and 78. So the open market purchase is $30 billion. So the open market purchase is $30 billion. The horizontal section of the new reserve supply curve is the discount rate, 1.72. And the new quantity of reserves is 108. So here is the diagram from Cengage Now after the open market purchase was conducted to lower the federal funds rate down to 0.72. This is the initial supply curve of reserves, and this is the initial equilibrium federal funds rate, which was 2.22%. So the new supply curve is this red kink line. It starts at 108 and takes a right at the discount rate of 1.72. The new supply curve crosses the demand curve at an interest rate of 0.72, which is the new target. If the excess reserves ratio is 12% and the currency ratio is 2%, what is the money multiplier? Now recall the reserve requirement ratio is 10%. So again, the money multiplier is the currency ratio or currency drain plus 1 divided by the sum of the reserve requirement ratio, which can also be denoted as RRR, plus the excess reserves ratio, which also can be denoted as ERR, plus the currency ratio or currency drain. So the money multiplier, again, H28 is the currency drain. We add that to 1, and then we sum up the three values over here, and we get 4.25. With an open market purchase of $30 billion and a money multiplier of 4.25, the increase in the money supply is 127.5. I'm going to check my work, and I should get everything but part C correct, which I leave up to you. And it looks like I get everything correct, except for part C.